Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to this second staged reading of the new musical Half Share Man, which has been many years in the making. I'm here to thank Visconti Chapel, Maxwell, and Carr for inviting us to do a second staged reading after our first one last January at the Athenaeum. Workshopping a show is essential to its growth, meaning when you do a staged reading, as the creators, you learn something. So after the first staged reading, we decided to add a couple of songs, we added a couple of actors, we changed some things in the script, and tonight you're going to see that, the result of that. So I also want to give a big thank you to the Nantucket Arts Council for supporting this staged reading. I think that's all I was going to say. Right. Oh, no, wait. One important thing. Because we have the entrance to the bathroom blocked, if the need presents itself to you, please go around and through the door to the side, okay? And I'd now like to introduce our esteemed director, Connor Bagley, who will say a few things about the show.
Thank you. Hi everyone. So my name is Connor Bagley, I'm the director. Molly Glazer was our incredible composer. She composed this original music with us. We're very excited to present it to you as well. With Joan Bigwood, who is our incredible writer as well, and the two of them have been laboring over this for the better part of a year, maybe?
Oh, more like 6.
6 years. See, this is how, like, you're a director, you get something in your hands and you don't even realize what the writers have been doing. It's been a labor of love, and I'm just so happy to be able to present it to you. It's a new musical made entirely on Nantucket for Nantucketers about a crucial moment in Nantucket history. The half-share revolt of the late 17th century. The cast, musicians, and I have been rehearsing this for the past 4 days, and we're looking forward to sharing with you what we've been cooking up. I'm incredibly impressed with what they've been able to do in such a short amount of time with music and everything else. Thank you for that. Also, the actors wear multiple hats, figuratively and literally. And so for a list of who's playing which character, because it's a reading and we don't have the accoutrement or sets, or lights, or costumes, everything else, in your program you'll see a list of the many characters of the play set in the 17th century. And you will see who's playing which character. So you'll be able to tell a bit from the storytelling what's going on, and that will be a guide for you there. And I don't think I have anything else to say, but I'm just so happy all of you, such a great crowd of some friendly faces and some new faces, that I'm so glad that you are all here. And without, yes. Oh, that's the one thing I forgot. Yeah. There will be a pause, about a 3-minute pause for tuning. The humidity on the island in the summer, as some of you know, is just completely crazy. It's out of control, and so these instruments that we have just need to take a moment in the middle of the show, which will be very clear, for about 3 minutes. Just please, we ask that you, take your time, and we ask for your patience during this moment. And I think that's all I wanted to say. So, without further ado, I give you the cast of Half Share Man.
Half Share Man, a one-act musical play by Joan Bigwood and Molly Glazer, based on Half Share Man by Clarence King.
I am Benjamin Franklin. I wasn't born yet when this play is set, But when I showed up, so did electricity. Without which you wouldn't have cell phones. So please mute them and yourselves. Thank you. Many have said that I was the most accomplished American of my age, which might explain my place on the $100 bill. But what about the patriots who came before me? There isn't enough folding money to fit them all. Take, for example, Peter Folger, an unassuming young man from the English market town of Diss. He would grow up to make an incalculable contribution to our fledgling nation by simply living out the creed of his youth.
You can never go wrong, my dear son. You always do the right thing.
Peter's mother died before he was grown. In their despair, father and son left Diss for a fresh start beyond the horizon, in the new world.
Over hundreds of miles did the colonists flock. To Plymouth they came, where the great ships did dock. The Abigail strained to be cast off to sea, like young Peter Folger, the new world to see. Derry down, 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 Derry down.
Is this the Abigail? I have passage for two, for my father and for myself. I'm Peter Folger.
The Abigail carried all manner of folk, like tradesmen and servants, a knight whose silk cloak he lay on the straw for the last man to board, while aft the new governor Endicott snored. Derry down, 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 Derry down.
You there! We're on the wrong deck. Governor Endicott of the Massachusetts Bay Colony is slumbering nearby. Off with your below decks.
Under darkness of night and the sound of church bells, a sloop came along as the last note rang 12. The Puritan preacher with his young family, and Mary their maid, to the new world of faith. Derry down, 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 Derry down.
Mary, please make things comfortable for your mistress. I will stay up on deck for a short while and say a prayer of thanks that we are safe now.
You Peters had questioned the divine right of kings, such treason caused rancor and other such things. Now the Abigail kept them from harm out of jail. With young Peter Folger to the new world they'd sail. Derry down, 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 Derry down. Peter's brought with him sweet Mary Morel, whose indentured servitude suited her well. He owed £20 for a lifetime of debt, but at least through hard work to the new world she'd get. Derry down, 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 Derry down.
Mary, dear, who was that young man I saw you speaking with on deck?
His name is Peter Folger, sir. He's a very determined young man.
Trust he is respectful.
Oh yes, sir. Mr. Folger has big plans in the New World. That is all I meant.
Now the kind-hearted preacher shared books with the lad, and eager young Peter read all that he had. This grammar school boy, Sir Peter would say, would make his own mark on the new world one day. Derry down, 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 Derry down. a new world together. Derry down, 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 Derry down.
Salem, all embarking at Salem.
Salem? Well, I thought we were headed to Boston first. Has anyone seen Reverend Peters? Where is Mary? Mary? Mary, wait!
Dear Mary, I will write to you soon. I'll come to see you as soon as I can. Your true love and future husband, Peter.
The Abigail landed at last at Boston Harbor, a collection of wooden shacks surrounded by dense forest. Peter was fascinated by the guttural sound with which the natives communicated as they made their way up the Charles River in dugout canoes. At Watertown, Peter met Sir Thomas Mayhew, a well-known trader in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Because he had learned his songs well back in England, Peter was immediately hired as a clerk, while his father went further on to find work as a carpenter and mason.
Peter's room in Watertown.
Dearest Mary, I will do whatever it takes to buy your freedom. Please wait for me. I cannot imagine my life with anyone else.
Little did Peter know that it would take him 9 years to save up enough, or nearly enough, to buy Mary Morrell's freedom from the Reverend Hugh Peters. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now, Peter owed Mary a letter.
You, sir, are you headed to Boston? Could you find a ship headed to Salem? And would you be so kind as to deliver these letters to Miss Mary Morrell, maidservant to the Reverend Hugh Peters?
Alas, the letter never arrived. Needless to say, Peter never received a reply. This was before I established the post office.
Dear Mary, I'll write to you soon. I will come to see you as soon as I can. Your true love and future husband. I want to see you on the boat that took me away, for a modest life without pain. You were waiting.
I require you to go to Boston to purchase some items for me there.
Peter was thrilled to take the Charles River back up to Boston to do his master's shopping, a test he would pass with flying colors. But when he got to Boston, he made acquaintance with the Gardner brothers. Young men Peter would know the rest of his life. They operated a sloop that went back and forth from Salem every week, and when they saw his shopping list, they pointed out how much lower the prices would be in Salem. Peter used that knowledge to negotiate purchases on behalf of Sir Thomas, which proved what a cunning businessman he was. That ultimately led to a shopping trip to Salem, but not before he bought with his own wages a small deerskin pouch in which he would keep whatever paltry savings he could save to eventually buy his beloved Mary's indenture.
Mary Morrill sits at a window ledge. We watch her see something far in the distance. Then,
I'm as trustworthy as a young man can get. I've loved you ever since we first met. My heart is in your hands. I must do what love demands. Darling, there is no one else but you.
I can manage to put aside a shilling a week. Why, it will only take me 8 years to save up enough to buy your freedom, Mary, and it will be well worth the wait.
Sir Thomas Mayhew's office. He and Peter are huddled over the books.
The colonists' coffers are empty and never will be reimbursed for the bridge over the Charles. Once again, the king gets all the glory and I am left with the bills. And now with the Indians getting rested, the threat of hostilities is compromising our trading channels and keeping colonists at bay. There's nothing for it. Start selling off my holdings for them.
Father, I have the most blessed news. I've been appointed apostle to the tribes of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket.
The timing of his missionary son's announcement coincided with Mayhew's senior decision to consolidate his assets and led to the eventual purchase of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Island for £40. He would send the two young men ahead to Martha's Vineyard to settle the island.
Folger, go with my son and assess the island for its habitability and possible trade partnerships.
Who's Martha?
Thomas and Peter began to settle the island along with 5 families. Peter's father, John, brought his new wife and proved indispensable as a housewright and mason. The local Wampanoag tribe, who had settled the island thousands of years prior, outnumbered the settlers 20 to 1 in villages dotted about the island run by sachems or chiefs. They were peaceful people, helpful people, good people. They shared with the colonists the secrets of nature, of the natural world, and in turn, the colonists introduced them to guns for hunting and tools for farming. Peter and Thomas immersed themselves in the tribe's language, Massachusetts, which they had begun to study on the mainland together. Now they put their knowledge to the task of baptizing the local natives to be converted to what they called praying Indians.
Peter and Thomas baptize unseen people.
I baptize you, John, for my father, and Gibbs for my mother. John Gibbs. Amen.
Peter hammers away at what looks like a chest. Now the Gardner brothers arrive at Mary Morrill's door with a chest, out of which pops Peter Folger.
Do you see where I carved MF for Mary Folger? One day, my darling Mary, you will be my wife.
Martha's Vineyard.
Eventually, with 8 families making up the new settlement, Peter was appointed schoolmaster. He was given a place to live, and now, more than ever, he could imagine his future as a family man.
Peter Folger! John! I thought you left after breakfast for Salem. Why are you back so soon? Oh, you didn't misplace my package to Mary, did... Is Mary all right?
Peter, you remember when Reverend Hugh Peters returned to England? How worried you were that Mary would have to return with him.
Thankfully, he chose not to put the women in harm's way. Oh no. Has something happened to Reverend Peters?
On the contrary, he's been granted £200 by Parliament and has sent for his family. I've squared the yard on him.
No! Not by Mary! I just wrote to her this morning. Why do you have the proof? I think I will have saved the £20 to buy her indenture by Christmas.
You don't have to wait until Christmas, Peter. The ship from England arrived in Boston this morning and is making its way up the coast now to Salem to collect Mistress Peters and Mary. I've squared the yard arms.
Oh, but it has taken me 9 years to save up for Mary's freedom. She's waited so patiently. John, can we sail the Expectation tonight to Salem?
I've squared the yard arms on the Expectation. She's ready to cast off. Are you coming or aren't you?
Give me 5 minutes. Father, I need to borrow £3. I'll be later.
They sailed through the night, and when they arrived in the early morning, there was the ship ready to leave for Boston and on to England. 2 sailors were struggling with Mary's hope chest, preparing to take it aboard.
Stop! That chest goes on the Expectation. Mary, it's me. It's your future husband.
Thomas Mayhew's office on Martha's Vineyard.
Folger, this time we called the meeting of all the elders and chiefs and sachems and what have you. I'd make a list, but God knows I can't pronounce their names, let alone write them down. You know who I mean, the bigwigs.
The sachems and sagamores? Oh, you mean Wenacmanac, Nicanoos, Attachat, Walwinnet? You mustn't forget John Gibbs.
I want my island to remain a peaceful kingdom, and we do that by building trust with our neighbors. I will need you to translate.
The Meeting House.
I call this meeting to order, Folger. I have much of import to impart.
Sir!
Father, may we begin with a prayer?
Yes, of course.
Gracious and everlasting God, Heavenly Father, we beseech Thee to imbue this gathering, that through our words and deeds we may worthily magnify Thy holy will in all that we discuss and resolve.
Amen.
Each station took turns blessing the meeting with its attendees until the room was positively filled to bursting with blessings.
I, Thomas Mayhew Sr., as Chief of the English Incomers, am bringing you the protection of the sachem across the sea. Beside whose power and might of your grandest chieftain, who ever lived on this side of the great water, is but nothing. If you will swear to let the English dwell peaceably nearby, all the benefits of this rule will be yours. Price in full will be paid for every strip of land occupied. Courts of equity will be established among you, and you can be assured of absolute justice. In these courts, as for religion, we have the superlative one, but there is no compulsion. Government and religion are 2 separate and distinct things. Did you get all that, Peter? What is it they are saying? Anything?
They are in full agreement, sir. Chief Menachmelech has little favorable to say about the colonists on the mainland, sir. They invoke the king's might for entirely different purposes, to take land that is not theirs for the king's hunting grounds.
That is not what our intention is, and you tell them so. No land will ever be taken from the natives without their consent and fair payment.
I have conveyed it.
That one there, what did he just say that made the other one smile so?
It was nothing, sir.
'Twas by no means nothing. Now, they are all smiling. Let us in on the joke, Folger, or was it at my expense the king would not be approving?
Oh, no, sir, no, it was not.
Speak up, man.
They were thanking me for my service, by my name, or rather, their name for me.
And what would that be?
White Chief's old young man, sir. And sir, when Akmanak has given you his promise to live in peace with us, as long as he can always have access to you.
You can assure him that my door is always open.
Yes, sir. And access to...
To what, Peter? To whom? No, let me divine. To White Chief's old young man?
Yes, sir.
If he insists. Well, I suppose it's time to pass the peace pipe in that damnable position on the ground. I will need some assistance.
The pipe was passed in peace, and peace reigned over the island of Martha's Vineyard for some time.
Sir Thomas Mayhew's office.
Folger, take your new wife to Salem for a delayed honeymoon. I will pay the passage.
Oh, but sir, that is too generous.
She can stay in Salem while you carry on to Salisbury. A certain Thomas Macy has made it known his intention to purchase Nantucket Island. I need representation.
Yes, sir, of course, sir.
Go find Mary and tell her to pack. And tell her no need to thank me.
Peter returns from Salisbury. Sir Thomas Mayhew's office.
There are 9 men in total, sir. Tristram Coffin and his 3 sons, along with Mr. Macy and a Mr. Starbuck.
And do they have the means to pay for the island?
Yes, sir, apparently.
In that case, I have not asked enough. Throw in 2 beaver hats, one for me and one for my wife.
Yes, sir. But may I advise you to keep aside one of the 10 shares? You will doubtless come to value the vote.
Just as long as I can rely on White Chief's old young man. To protect my interests, and remember, I promised the sachems no Indian will be subject to unfair dealings with interested parties. Tristram Coffin looks to be very interested bringing his 3 sons in on the deal. That smells suspiciously like a voting plot to me. You will do the surveying in Nantucket. As interpreter, you must represent accurately. And where you sense deceit or trickery of any kind, you will lay it bare.
You have my word, sir.
The first meeting of the proprietors on Nantucket. Thomas Macy, Edward Starbuck, and Tristram Coffin are assembled along with Peter Folger.
It is a natural harbor. Nearby freshwater ponds are abundant, far less swampy than Nantucket's good building grounds.
You needn't tell me what I already know about these islands. I am somewhat of an expert, having sole ownership of the fair island Tuckanuck, just northwest of here. I dare say I am eminently qualified to opine on the suitability of any land under discussion. I should also add that my son has all the lumber we could possibly need from his stands in Dover. He is, of course, a fellow proprietor. A natural choice, therefore, for the provisioning of construction on the island. Good? Good. May it be so. Now, about the Indians, Folger.
Can you render more specificity to your query, sir?
How many?
Well, some 1,200, perhaps as many as 1,500.
That's a great number of Indians.
We represent a small fraction.
We really must put together a home guard, gentlemen. We are not safe until we fortify our surroundings.
Oh, Mr. Starr, Mr. Macy, I cannot stress enough how friendly our relations are with our neighbors here on the island. They are praying Indians, hospitable, helpful, good men.
There's too damn many of them. But we will take your word for it, Folger, until circumstances prove otherwise.
As long as they are always treated fairly, we will not have a problem.
I still insist on the parade grounds in the center of town. We will make up in training and discipline what we lack in numbers. As the island surveyor, you must measure the lots precisely, draw up the deeds, and make damn sure that they get signed and sealed.
I don't trust those Indians to not change their minds after they see what a beautiful town we have built. When you've completed your work, you may move back to Maine.
The Folgers' house on the mainland.
Back in England, Hugh Peters, the good reverend who shared his library with young Peter on that faithful Atlantic crossing, was imprisoned for preaching against the divine right of kings. He was subsequently beheaded, drawn, and quartered. You don't want to know what drawn and quartered is. Believe me, I would not wish that on my worst enemy. Reverend Peters was certainly no traitor in the New World. He helped establish the colony of Salem. Later he helped found Harvard College. And don't forget, he brought Peter and Mary together. Now he lay in pieces on the road to Marble Arch.
I can't bear the thought of Reverend Peter's suffering.
And to think he was punished for simply speaking the truth. No king is God, though this one certainly does his best imitation.
Say it quietly, Peter.
How can a man stand up for his beliefs if he be dismembered for them? How can we do the right thing in the face of what is so wrong? They want us back.
Who wants whom back?
Coffin. All of them. They need services and the people that go with those services. They're offering us half a share.
What on earth is half a share? You either have your half or you don't. I don't see how you can have half a share.
I dare say 2 half-share men don't make one whole. We simply add up to 2 men with 1 half-share each. However, we would have schoolhouse again. And our very own home.
Apparently we'll only need half a home.
We must ask the Father to join us. He will help build the town into something we can all be proud of.
Tristram Coffin's office.
Tristan Coffin was right to bring Peter and Mary Folger back to Nantucket in 1665. The settlement needed everything: weavers, millers, coopers, builders. In addition, they needed an interpreter, an ambassador to the native tribe, a school teacher, a tutor to Tristan Coffin's grandchildren, and town clerk. And for that, they had Peter Folger.
Peter Folger has much to offer. But why must his innumerable children continue to steal the hearts of our offspring? They're tearing at the very fabric of our community. Half-share progeny.
Sir, we have received word from the new governor of New York demanding a reckoning of the land deals that have taken place on the islands.
Well, I ask you, what is the point of having a chief magistrate if I must do a distant governor's bidding? Folger, call a meeting of all the male settlers over the age of 60.
The meeting house. At the meeting of the court.
We must elect a representative to travel to Fort James with our deeds so that they may be certified by the new governor. Folger, have you have them carefully filed, have you not?
They are thoroughly in order, sir.
Very good. I shall be happy to convey them to the governor when I get to see him.
We shall take a vote.
Before Tristan Coffin knew what had happened, the assembled crowd had elected Thomas Mason to make the trip.
Then I shall accompany you, Macy, as the sole representative of the Coffin family's sole interest in the island of Tuckermudge.
Nantucket. Peter and Richard Gardner, 2 half-share men, walk home from the meeting.
Do you suppose the new governor might invalidate the deeds you so carefully prepared for the transfer of lands?
Oh, not a chance. They are fair and impeccably measured, if I do say so myself.
However, I beseech you.
This could be our chance, Richard, to right a wrong.
How so?
Governor Lovelace will be preparing a charter for the island, no doubting it. Now is the time for us to remove the yoke of an old-fashioned form of government that doesn't recognize each man as having an equal voice in the affairs of self-rule.
But what would propel the governor to remove a great man of influence like Tristram Coffin from power? The old ways die, I'm afraid.
If Lovelace is a progressive thinker, and I believe this new government will be an improvement over the old ways of the Dutch, he wields too much power over the current arrangement. It's impossible to vote him out, with all the votes he and his sons off island claim.
Well, what do you propose as an alternative?
We get Thomas Macy to suggest to the governor that they introduce in the new charter a simple one vote per inhabitant. No offshore voting. If you want your candidate elected, why, you are free to move your family and livestock to the island, to build yourself a home.
Yeah. One Nantucketer, one vote. That's brilliant. If all it took to start anew was land and industry, that might work if out of reach royal tyranny. A ruler ran our lives, but not so anymore. Demands made results in change and votes keep score.
In the new world we start with hopes and dreams, sharing visions, hatching schemes, and hopes and beams.
Hopes and beams.
A government comes next should anything arise.
To every single landowner, self-rule applies. That's one Nantucketer, one vote, and none from the mainland count. That's one Nantucketer, one vote, and none from the mainland count at all. One Nantucketer casts one vote, and the rest of you can sit this out. One Nantucketer casts one vote, and the rest of you can sit this out.
Proprietors of us for fools.
Us for fools.
The governor will see self-rule as it should be.
Let's have a show of hands, count them. That's democracy. That's one Nantucketer, one vote. That's one Nantucketer, one vote. And the rest of you can say it out. The rest of you can say it out. That's one Nantucketer, cast one vote. And the rest of you can sit this out. One Nantucketer, cast one vote. And the rest of you can sit this out.
To propose one Nantucketer, one vote, all the while distracting old Tristram Coffin with yet another appointment as Chief Magistrate. That is his main priority, after all.
Then once we each have a vote of our own, and none from the mainland, from all those coffins to interfere, we can vote him out and fully embrace self-rule.
Living in harmony alongside our friends who have ruled this island in their own right for thousands of years. We owe it to them to be the best neighbors we can be.
Peter Folger and Thomas Macy outside the meeting house.
Macy! Guard these deeds with your life, Thomas, and bring them back in as good condition. And there's enough money in there to buy yourself a new ruff when you get to New York. We don't want our elected representative looking like Mayhew and Coffin's manservant.
Nantucket. Thomas Macy and Peter Folger are now walking in the opposite direction, and Peter has the satchel.
You should have seen Tristram Coffin's face when Governor Lovelace's secretary introduced him as the representative from Tuckernuck.
And bump of rock on the sound, hardly impressive. No mention of his lofty position of Chief Magistrate.
Only by his own good self. But it was too late. The council directed all the questions about Nantucket to me.
Lo, how the mighty have fallen. It was a good thing you had your new ruff.
I did look rather elegant. One might have mistaken me for the Chief Magistrate himself. I noticed in the meeting how much the governor relied on his secretary for information and detail, and thus I concocted a plan.
I have no doubt, a magnificent one.
After the meeting, I took my chance and waylaid Mr. Nichols, told him everything, how hard put we are to wrest control from the Coffin family because of all the offshore boating. He quite understood our dilemma. Said he would influence the governor as best he could.
Good man. And all of it out of earshot of the chief magistrate?
Chief magistrate for 1 more year only. At that time, we will elect 2 candidates from which the governor will choose his successor. It will all be spelled out in the charter.
Oh, I could not ask for more, my good man.
And Coffin seems quite oblivious to it all, just as long as he has retained his title.
And with the deeds officially certified, Thomas Macy, you are to be commended for your excellent stewardship.
There's something else Tristram Coffin seems to be ignoring at our peril. Governor Lovelace included in the charter an annual levy.
How much, pray tell?
A tax of £734.
What? That would take us 100 years! 734 pounds!
Of fish! 4 barrels of cod, which we must deliver each and every year on the birthday of the son of the Duke of York, October the 13th. Every year, governments appear, now everyone here owns them cod, far across the ocean. The ocean amount to nothing more than cod.
Here, there, just one more tariff. Now they want barrels of cod. Please tell the king Nantucket brings much more to the table than cod. We ask a beneficent God to help us muster up all that cod.
With nothing left to build a home into a colony, the skills we bring make everything for this community. Each water tighter road, each navigable road, but still all we owe are all the riches in the sea.
It's time we get our fishing nets and cast them on the waves.
Each barrel that we fill, by God's most holy will, we ask the loving God to help us fill 4 barrels with cod.
October the 13th. That's in 4 months. We have no fishermen. We could never fulfill this debt.
That may explain why Coffin seems to be ignoring it.
There's only one thing for it.
Now, Peter, you are far too busy for
The
that.
only man I know who can coax fish from the sea in those quantities is Richard Gardner's brother, John. We must send word to my old friend in Salem.
John Gardner will be the first to inform you that he is no friend of Tristram Coffin. I think with Coffin in charge, your answer from John will be a hearty nay.
Thomas Macy was right. And then the first deadline for cod came and went without the peering, preening chief magistrate giving it a second thought. The following spring, the settlers started to worry about their obligation under the Lovelace Charter and sent the following to Salem.
A grant was made by the town, freeholders, inhabitants, purchasers, and associates now inhabiting upon the island, unto Mr. John Gardner, mariner, a seaman's accommodation, with all the appurtenances belonging unto it fully, as the other seamen and tradesmen have in their former grants.
In other words, another half-share man.
Upon condition that he come to inhabit and set up the trade of fishing, with a sufficient vessel fit for the taking of codfish. This is a true copy by me, Peter Folger, in the year of our Lord.
An invitation John Gardner ignored.
But the following summer, as Tristram Coffin's term of office was nearing its end, and the town council had proposed Richard Gardner and Edward Starbuck as Coffin's replacement, Peter heard back from John Gardner.
Oh, all right. I'll come. Yes! Now settle up that old horse of yours. I need you to take me around to all the Indian villages so I can recruit my crew.
They visited the sachems in Wanton, Panacanak on the west end of the island, and sachems Nicanus on the east. And by the end of the day, John Gardner had hired a large force. He set them to work at once. October 13, 1672 came and went, and still no word from Fort James as to who would succeed Tristan Coffin as chief magistrate. Nor was there enough cod to satisfy the island's debt to the governor. But by the next spring, John Gardner and his fishermen had filled not 4, but 8 barrels of cod.
That's it then. We deliver 8 barrels of cod by the 13th and we're all caught up.
We haven't exactly started out on the right foot with Fort James. What say we throw in 50 pounds of feathers as a form of interest?
Every year new governments appear, now everyone here rows them cod. Far across the ocean, colonial devotion amounts to nothing more than cod. We ask a beneficent God to fill all our barrels with cod.
He blessed us through all weather.
Now all we need are feathers to go with 8 barrels of cod.
The governor's office. John and Richard Gardner stand before Governor Lovelace.
I asked for 4 barrels, not 8.
True, sir, but we were unable to make a delivery upon the first date that your excellency required it.
And why is that? I am most curious.
The leadership did not make it a priority. My brother John was not even recruited from Salem to come fish until the following summer.
Are you telling me that you filled 8 barrels of cod since last summer? How could you possibly?
The cod runs like buffalo. The Indians are very practiced at rounding them up. We built a strong team and worked well together.
Indeed. The results speak for themselves. I am very impressed, gentlemen. Very impressed indeed. Cod is the future of our colony. I am convinced of it. And you, Captain Gardner, are at the prow of this mighty vessel.
You're correct there, Governor Lovelace. My brother learned from the best. Our father.
He taught you well. Now, keep those natives on good terms so we can build this trade into a thriving industry. Now, I want you both to make yourselves indispensable on that island. What do you call it?
Nantucket, sir.
Change it. I'm tired of not forgetting how to say it. Go on. What say it? Give it a name that we can all remember.
What do you think of Cherbourg?
Father's home in Dorset. Brilliant, John.
Sure. Lovely. Sure, it is. Now, have you got the land you need for drying the cod? Because I'm happy for you to acquire some more from the natives. I'll issue you a license. Negroes, we need a land license. You have earned this concession. Further, to show my faith in you 2 young colonists, the very hope of our future as a nation, I appoint you, John Gardner, captain of the militia. And your brother here will be the new chief magistrate. Nichols, draw up formal appointments for the current year.
The Folgers' house. John and Richard Gardner sit with Peter around his fireplace.
Wait till you hear this, though, Peter. What is granted in the general patent to the inhabitants, freeholders of the island of Nantucket, Cherbourg now, is to be understood unto them alone who live upon the place and make improvement, or such others who have pretenses of interest shall come to inhabit there.
Gentlemen, we are making quite unexpected headway towards 1 Nantucketer, 1 Sherburner, 1 vote, and none from off island, I dare add. I recommend, if I may, that you keep all of this under your hats until the next meeting of the General Court, with Thomas Mayhew presiding and Tristram Coffin as sitting duck. He will not want to hear that the pesky Gardner brothers are now in charge. I don't think the others will mind so much. After all, they nominated Richard. But Tristram Coffin will be most displeased.
Oh, nothing brings me more happiness than to see Tristram Coffin with less. We shall take your counsel, soldier, and wait.
Best to get it over with all at once rather than through whispers and hearsay. It will be quite the surprise.
Until the next meeting of the General Court.
Now we pause for tuning. We're ready to resume.
Hearken, hearken, hear ye. Richard Gardner wishes to speak to the assembled council.
Unto them alone who live upon the place and make improvements or interest, or such others who have pretenses of interest shall come to inhabit there. Signed, Francis Lovelace, Governor.
Preposterous!
There is an addendum. I have thought fit to give and grant, and by these present do hereby give and grant liberty and license unto the said Mr. Richard and Captain John Gardner and the associates to buy and make purchase of some convenient quantity or tract of land for the use aforesaid or for improvements thereof of the said Indian proprietors.
Indian proprietors? Was the governor drunk when he signed this proclamation? Has he not given sober thought to the old bromide? Whatsoever is not broken requires no repair?
We must draft a rebuttal that knocks some sense into this so-called governor. I have yet to see any evidence that he knows anything at all as to how to govern. We will explain how we have done things all along and how we intend to continue to do them. I move we send Matthew to Fort James with a signed petition.
You hear me?
Grandfather, are you sending me to New York?
That I am, my boy. We need to send the future of this island to meet our new leadership.
Matthew nearly made it to Fort James, the written rebuttal to Governor Lovelace, but rounding Point Judith, a sloop hove to with the news that New York Harbor was fairly teeming with Dutch warships and that he was under advisement to turn back.
Blast it all.
The Folgers house, the family at dinner.
No, Abida, you won't have to start wearing wooden shoes nor speaking Dutch in school.
Just because Robert Coffin says it doesn't make it so.
As his school teacher
And his private tutor.
and his tutor,
Nothing but the very best for Tristram Coffin's grandchildren.
I can assure you that Master Coffin is talking through his hat. The Dutch have the Hudson Valley to invade. They have no time to worry about little Sherburne.
Sherburne's old guard never did have to figure out how to work with the Dutch invasion because the next time Tristram Coffin's planned to descend on Fort James with a petition to reverse the Lovelace Charter, the English had regained control of the colonies. Now Amsterdam was back to being New York.
Tristram Coffin's parlor. Stephen Hussey addresses the chief magistrate.
Sir Edmund Andros had only just arrived from England and was quite overtaxed. His secretary Nichols sent me away after the merest audience. Apparently Stephen Hussey of Sherburne doesn't hold the same weight as Tristram.
Chief Magistrate Coffin, a most revelatory report, Mr. Hussey. We'll all go meet this governor. Edmund Andros, is it?
The Folgers house. In the Folgers sitting room, Mary is fitting Peter with a suit.
Stand still, dear. The pins are sharp.
Governor Andros is a former soldier. I believe he is a man of the people. I doubt the cut of my suit will make much of an impression.
You would be surprised, my love. Tristram Coffin relies quite heavily on appearances, and we shall do the same.
As long as what it conceals can stand up to equal scrutiny, my intentions are simple and unadorned.
And I love you for it, Peter. We will do our best to make your suit reflect your purest intentions.
I don't trust the crowds in Boston, Mary, nor the scoundrels who might board the ship. I barely trust the scoundrels I'll be traveling with. Please keep the island steeds safe before we are gone.
The reception area of Governor Andros's office at Fort James.
I've let the governor know that you are here. All here. Though I thought he made himself quite clear to the last envoy. Hussey, was it?
Yes, Stephen Hussey, yes. A mere envoy. Just tell the governor that Chief Magistrate Coffin is here.
He is a very busy man, my friends. You must keep it brief.
Later, in Governor Andros's office.
Which is why we feel that the initial proprietors, wherever they happen to reside, took the greatest risk in pooling their investment, and as such deserve to be identified as an integral part of the initial foundation upon which Sherburne has been rooted.
If I may interrupt there, to say that rooted is the furthest thing from built, which is what we have endeavored to do ever since the ownership of the lots exchanged hands and new ownership titles were established. We are the men who have built the town, who have taken it from the original Nantucket to the Sherburne of today. As such, we deserve to steer the community into the future by way of democratic voting and fair representation for the Sherburne of tomorrow.
Governor Andros has heard enough of Sherburne. He feels he has spent the entire length of his new term hearing nothing else. You can expect his official reply in the coming weeks.
Mr. Nichols, I have a copy of our petition for your files.
Ah, good. Please join me in my office before you take your leave.
And now is as excellent a time as any.
Secretary Nichols' office.
I keep all related documents here.
May I? Wait a moment. This copy of the island's deeds is not correct. I see here discrepancies in lot sizes, I see changes made by hand and in haste. Tell me, sir, who was the last person to be in contact with these papers? Because it certainly wasn't I, and I can prove it. I have the original deeds at home under guard.
Stephen Hussey bursts in.
I was just stopping in to say goodbye, sir. To thank you again for your kind hospitality. We sail within the hour, Folger. You don't want to miss the cast-off.
This is a falsified version of the 1660 deed to benefit the colonists and not the original landowners. It will not stand.
How can we attest that yours are the accurate renderings, I jest. You're a good man, Peter Folger, and you just saw the last man to touch those papers, Stephen Hussey. You take care of those originals, I'll take care of Governor Andrews. And know this, I shan't forget the plight of the half-share man on Sherburne. Injustice for the sake of power is never a fair fight.
The Folger's house.
Father, Robert Coffin and his family have arrived. Robert says he was nearly shot dead by an arrow. He says we're not safe here until we take up arms. Father, will there be a war with the Indians?
There will be no war on this island if Aristotle and I have anything to say about it.
Silly Daddy, your horse can't talk.
No, but Aristotle knows the way to the villages. It's a well-worn path among friends. I shall go now, and we shall all hope the sachems agree with me.
Outside of church, Thomas Macy strolls along with John Gardner.
Apparently, the sachems told him, this is King Philip's war, not our war. We do not make it. Peter is more valuable to us than a regiment of troops.
He and that old horse do God's work, and keeping the peace is a large part of it. How can we take up arms against a people we call friends? Destroy that which our charter defends, upon which order depends. Is this what heaven intends? God knows we won't wage a bloody war against our friends.
Don't you see? They are not the enemy. It is plain to see. A fight should be for harmony. Be helpful as we can be. We lead with diplomacy. God knows we won't wage a war. I think we all agree.
We could fight, but remember how the same old story goes. We all die for our kings. In fact, our real enemies are greed and deceit gone too far, threatening lives in a car with a bloody war with friends.
Don't you see? They are not these enemy. It is plain to see. A fight should be for harmony.
Possibly the only islander who was glad to see Peter Coffin move into his father's house, along with his family, was young Abide Folger, who was gleeful to have Robert Coffin nearby and out of danger. The young girl's heart holds many mysteries. The blooming love is neither mysterious nor easily concealed.
Peter, we'll need you at the upcoming town hall.
Happy to oblige, neighbor.
Yes, Peter Coffin, you too, will want everyone at the meeting.
The meeting house. The meeting of the council.
I move that Thomas Macy, weaver, and Peter Coffin, refugee lumberman, be given the fishing concession.
What on earth did either of them know about
Far be it for anyone to question the great Captain John Gardner, but his liberal issuing of Rome to the Indians, not to mention the obvious bribery of Governor Lovelace, in the form of 50 pounds of feathers. are both strong indications of his abuse of position.
I'll have you know that my brother John strictly abides by the rules of the sea. You stay out of...
Don't take the bait, Richard. As moderator, I propose that we vote. According to the governor's charter, we are instructed only to count the votes of permanent residents.
Thomas Macy had serious financial obligations to Tristan Coffin, and the fishing concession could pull him out of debt. He needed Tristan Coffin more than the rest of the colonists put together. He had officially switched sides. His two sons-in-law from North Island voted for the motion.
Let's make them joint chief magistrates. We have the votes. Moreover, I have it on good authority that Peter Folger has falsified the town records. I move that our new leaders, Peter Coffin and Thomas Macy, examine the book of records.
The Folgers' house. Peter and Mary are cleaning up at the end of an evening.
Why not let them examine the deeds, Peter? You know you have drawn them up with great precision. They will not find fault.
Don't you see, Mary? If they get their treacherous hands on the original records, they could destroy them, and the false copy of Fort James would stand. This charade has got out of hand. I'll have to outwit them.
Please be careful, Peter. You're dealing with very powerful men.
They may have might. We are on the side of right. And doing the right thing will always prevail. Why don't you get some sleep? I will join you upstairs once I've had a chance to clear my mind.
Peter is reading quietly in the corner. A man slowly creaks open the front door and slips into the house, thinking he is alone. He heads straight for Peter's desk and starts poking around.
May I help you, Constable?
I didn't see you there, Peter.
What can I do for you, William? 'Tis the order of the court that the constable be sent to Peter Folger for the record book and all the records of that nature, and this is to empower the constable herein and to bring them to the court forthwith, and Peter Folger is to deliver them, signed Thomas Macy, magistrate. Oh. The book was put into my hands by the general court. Until the same power or higher call it from me, I shall endeavor to keep it. But if you would have any copies out of it, you may have them at any time.
Once Constable Bunker leaves the house with Peter's answer, Peter unlocks his desk drawer, removes the book, and hustles out of the house with it tucked in his greatcoat. John Gardner's house.
John, you've got to hide the record book. But do not, under any circumstances, tell me where. I'm about to be arrested for refusing to share the book with the illegally appointed magistrate Thomas Macy, traitor.
Once a friend, now a foe. At least we know which side his bread is buttered.
A man with a large debt to pay is a man whose scruples are put to the test.
You are under arrest, Peter Folger, for not complying with demands of our chief magistrate.
Peter Folger's trial was set for the following week, attended by all the island's people of consequence. Coffins and their allies on one side of the meeting house, and gardeners and those who sided with gardeners on the other, including many of Peter Folger's friends from the Indian villages.
But why are you on trial, Father? You've done nothing wrong.
A fair trial will prove it and will set things right, my love.
Promise me, Father.
I can only promise you this. No matter what happens, I will always do the right thing.
The illegally elected Chief Magistrate Thomas Macy and Peter Coffin ran the proceedings. Peter Folger knew that he had but one recourse: to not make a single statement for fear it would be twisted and held against him.
Will you not answer to these charges?
His silence is further indication of his culpability. He must be imprisoned for his misdeed. Bond shall be set at £20.
What say you now, Peter Folger?
As the taciturn, Peter Folger was taken away. His native friends looked upon the scene menacingly. Outnumbered as they were, even the constables took fright.
I Let me explain to them that there is no need to engage in battle over this travesty.
He spoke in fluent Massachusetts, quickly summarized how his imprisonment was illegal, and once the governor of New York heard tell, he would put an end to this travesty. Although they both understood he was more than welcome to hide under the auspices of the sachems in the far-off villages on the island, he explained that by running away, he would be breaking the law. By complying until justice was served, he would remain blameless. The sachems were not surprised that this was his position, for they knew Peter Folger to be an utterly trustworthy soul.
All I ask is that you keep an eye on my family while I am away.
The jail. Richard Gardner visits Peter. Peter hands him a letter.
It's a letter to Governor Andros explaining the whole situation, from the boats off island to the false accusations to my unlawful incarceration. Richard, would you and Edward Starbuck add a postscript vouching for my innocence?
Of course, Peter. Nothing would give me more satisfaction. I'll send my brother to Fort James to deliver it.
Peter was left to while away the months, waiting for a reply. It gave him time to reflect on the influences over his 60 years. His dear departed mother, his kind and diligent father, the equally paternal Hugh Peters, his beloved Mary, who stood by him, and his principles time after time. He thought of Abia, the youngest and possibly cleverest of his children, witnessing this miscarriage of justice. What would it teach her?
Dark of night, dark as it gets. Here on my own, I'm all alone with my regrets. My dear mother said you can never go wrong as long as you stay true to what you've known all along. But principles won't cut all the firewood the household will need. The lessons I've learned won't fill all of the young girls to feed.
Members of opposing tribes are quarreling over land rights. The general court is losing patience at not having access to the record book, Peter. They are doling out fines to anyone who questions their authority.
Town Hall. Peter Coffin and Thomas Macy conspire.
He has refused once again to come before the council, insists we are illegally appointed.
This from a common criminal.
Does he not realize that by refusing to hand over the record book, he could be inciting terrible violence among the heathen? We must not stand for this defiance.
Perhaps we can get to him through pressuring his accomplices. Captain John Gardner is summoned before the court to reveal the whereabouts of the record book.
John Gardner sits before the council without removing his hat.
Captain John Gardner is sentenced to jail, disenfranchised, and fined £10 for his persistent lack of cooperation. Bond set at £50.
which John paid forthwith, and sped off to Fort James to once again plead the case for his good friend and ally, who whiled away the weeks and months awaiting not so swift justice.
I demand release of the record book!
Peter remained obstinate. Finally, on August 3rd, a full 6 months after Peter Folger was sent to jail, Sir Edmund Andros sent word from Fort James.
All proceedings against Captain John Gardner and Peter Folger, surveyor, are to be suspended until further orders.
The Folgers' sitting room.
Daddy, Robert Coffin says you are a prisoner on parole. Whatever does that mean?
It means that someone is stuffing young Robert's head with silly notions. It means that I've been let out of jail, but must wait for Governor Andros to decide whether I'm guilty or not.
But are you guilty?
Only guilty of living by my principles, of knowing in my heart right from wrong and trying never to steer toward the more convenient path. I may be guilty of that. I hope you will always be guilty of the same, my life. Now, join the others upstairs and to bed. I will be up shortly.
There's a loud banging at the door. Peter steps outside, then returns hastily.
Another shipwreck off Sankaty Head. John, sound the drum! There's been a wreck where the exportation went down. You and Eliezer should take my skiff and sail to win it. The tribes have got the men off the ship, and now we must work in haste before she breaks up. John, see to it that Tristram Coffin is alerted. He will take charge of the salvage as before. No time to waste.
The rescuers worked all night to salvage over 2,000 hides aboard the ship. Tristram Coffin would be held liable for the whole lot and would be rewarded for a thorough accounting. However, he didn't count on the long simmering resentment the sachems felt towards old Tristram for all he and his faction had done to destroy Peter Folger's reputation, and for the months of captivity of a good man, an innocent man. The men helped themselves to as many hides as they could carry, for they knew that their sachems would turn a blind eye to their crime.
Impossible. There must be a miscalculation somewhere. Missing goods totaling £477 sterling, minus expenses. Good God, I owe the captain and the ship owners nearly £350. How could this be? There was no shortage whatsoever on the last salvage. Yet this French ship stuffed to the gunwales with those enormous hides. I know my men cleared the cargo before the sunrise, before she gave in to the tide. So where could all the missing hides have got to? Unfinished! Ruined!
Thanks to the unwarranted kindness of Peter and Captain John, they were able to convince Governor Andros to reduce Tristram's debt significantly. The old man would die a year later, but not in debtor's prison.
The village green. Abaya in her pretty yellow frock is preparing for their picnic lunch on a blanket.
A silk merchant from Boston had come to sheep shearing day with his large family of children and took over the spot next to the Folgers.
Father, they're taking the space I was saving for Robert and his family.
Abaya shifted her position to have a better view of the path from the harbor, then the handsome Robert Coffin came into view with a lovely girl on his arm, a certain Joanna Dyer, his fiancée.
I've forgotten.
Abaya was forever changed from that moment. Her childlike innocence was replaced with a dark despair that only worsened over subsequent days and weeks. Her parents suggested she take a trip to see her sisters.
She could stay with Dorcas in Charlestown and Bathsheba in Boston and cross over to see Patience in Falmouth.
And on the return voyage from Falmouth, much restored, whom should Abaya meet on the pack but Mr. Joseph Franklin, the soap maker from Shearing Day on the neighbor's bank. A widow with 7 children, he took an immediate liking to the intelligent and comely young woman and would ultimately secure her hand in marriage. And back on the island, there had been several sightings of Peter Coffin's son, or if you prefer, Tristan Coffin's grandson, Jethro Coffin, strolling with Captain John's beautiful daughter, Mary Gardner. Of the many pairings that took place in those early days of Sherburne, a Coffin marrying a Gardner trumped them all.
As long as both their families know what we've known all along.
They're meant to be together, now should be a wedding dress.
As church bells sound, you'll gather round to toast their happiness.
Let's climb Sunset after a picnic. What is the harm?
Stroll on Sunset Hill, far from the crowd, with you on my arm. Won't you marry me? Love unsparingly, romancing truths on family feuds, where Sharon loses church bells sound and gather round to toast to our Labrador is.
They'll move to Sunset Hill, let our father who saved her the best. Grow old on Sunset Hill, built from lumber from Dover, you guessed. Now lay the cornerstone, they'll make this house a home. Two families at last at peace. As church bells sound, they'll gather round and share in their marital bliss. As church bells sound, we'll gather round and share in their marital bliss.
The two families still haggling over the details of the deed on the wedding day. Nothing unusual there. All of Sherburne, or as it would later be known as Nantucket, was made up of families with long historic alliances and unresolved disagreements, making any kind of dealings fraught with generational loyalties. But one thing remained steady for well over 50 years: the love and devotion Peter and Mary displayed for one another. As for Abaya Folger, their youngest child, her father lived just long enough to see her marry her sweetheart, Josiah Franklin. Sadly, their 11 children never had the chance to meet our grandfather, for he died a year later. But we never stopped hearing our family's many inspiring stories from our dear mother, Peter Folger's beloved daughter, a body. And now, so have you.
Once upon a rock in the ocean, history shows invited roots. Men who sent here shared a vision, brought their women and sought recruits.
Autocratic coffin, Thomas, Mayhew, Starbuck, Hossey, and don't forget the Swains.
Ashes went to gardeners, Folgers, Macy's, Goldman's, bunkers, divided the remains.
Now that you know all the needs of all your cousins, how can you show them little loyalty? Fate's made a town where not long ago there wasn't, thanks to your voice from across the sea.
Their signs were nothing lavish, allegiances established. They shared in all for commercial growth to preserve their legacy.
Check the book, we could be cousins. Take a look and you'll find dozens. Whether friend or foe, in the end you'll know. It's in the genealogy. Check the book, we could be cousins. Take a look and you'll find dozens. Whether friend or foe, in the end you'll know. It's in the genealogy.
In the genealogy, you'll recognize the trace, where through your genealogy, your personhood awaits. It shows up in your eye color and how you grew your beard, or the shape of your distinctive head when hair has disappeared.
In the genealogy, there's something you will find. The way we learn to treat each other all throughout mankind.
We make a choice to give a voice to time and family feuds. Beyond our traits, we stoke our hate and other attitudes.
In the genealogy, you're not just anyone, but in a strong community, there's room for everyone.
In the genealogy, you're not just anyone, but in a strong community,